Welcome back, everyone, to our Midnight Hunt review for Limited, a little bit constructed. I'm DJ. I'm here with Amalgam, and we're going to start off with Valdaren Stinger. One red, 1/1, Vampire Warrior at common. Says as long as it's attacking, it has first strike. Then it has the activate ability of 2 in a red. It gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. I like this card. Um,
I did too.
Vampires wants to be aggressive. This is the pup from Kaldheim, but a vampire, and not always having first strike, but it's gonna play out the same way. You're gonna attack into your opponent's 2/2. You know, if they block it, you kind of get to eat it up, and most of the time your opponent's not gonna block it, which means for this the decks that this goes into, that you're just gonna proc all of your if opponent lost life this turn stuff. So this is probably like a C for me. I really like these one drops being legitimately playable now.
Yeah, I agree. The first strike's pretty strong if you're attacking, and it makes blocking with two drops really unfortunate.
Mhm.
So I have it at a C as well. All right, next we have Voldaren Ambusher for a vampire archer creature at uncommon for 2 and a red, and it's a 2/2. When Voldaren Ambusher enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, deal X damage up to one target creature or planeswalker, where X is the number of vampires you control. I like this card a lot. Um, you know, hopefully you get to have 2 to 3 vampires, and it's pretty good. Um, I wouldn't rate it too highly, probably a C plus.
Yeah, I agree. There's a couple of hoops to jump through, but you don't we don't normally see these effects at 3 mana. So if you can get it to proc and kill something, like paying 3 mana to do it is a pretty good investment to get a 2/2. I think it's worth doing the work to get the 2 for 1. And if you put this card in your deck, you're gonna have a bunch of vampires. It's a vampire itself, so probably just one other vampire in the field, you could kill something that's out. So I agree. I'd probably have it at like a C. Next, we have Village Watch. 4 and a red for a human werewolf at uncommon. It's a 4/3. It has haste and daybound. And then when it transforms, it's a 5/4. And it says wolves and werewolves you control have haste. That counts itself, so it's a 5/4 with haste. Looks like another C to me. Aggressive decks, pretty decent curve topper. Obviously, if it's already night, it comes down as a 5/4 with haste. It crunches in there. Pretty, pretty just solid card.
It's a solid 5 drop for sure. Next we have Thermo Alchemist. Uh, Human Shaman at uncommon. It's a 0/3 for 1 and a red. Defender, and then you may tap Thermal Alchemist to deal 1 damage to each opponent, and when you cast an instant or sorcery, untap Thermal Alchemist. I love these cards in limited. Uh, if you're playing like the blue red spells deck, it kind of can just sit there and get there.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, they're not super strong unless you're playing 10ish, 10 or 11 instants probably.
Mm-hmm.
So in that deck, I probably have this at a C plus on that deck. Otherwise, it's probably a D for me.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. This is obviously just nuts in the blue red spells deck. Uh, this was really good the last time it was here. It got a grade or a rarity upshift to uncommon because it was really good at common. Every blue red spells deck just had 2 or 3, and it was a nightmare. Um, I I think I have it at a B, because it deals 1 damage to your opponent for no mana, which is really good for the red black deck. And I don't think red green will want it at all, but I think it's going to be really good in the red black deck, and it's obviously just nuts in the red blue deck. So I have it at a B. Next, we have Tavern Ruffian. 4 mana, 3 and a red for a human warrior werewolf at common. Has Daybound and it's a 2/5. And when it transforms, it becomes a 6/5.
Yeah, this
This,
card's medium.
yeah, it's run of the mill filler. If you need a 4 drop, you can play it. It's huge when it flips, so it's a little bit better than these type of cards that we normally see. Just these 4 drops that you play to like hold off aggro or to fill out your curve. But I think it's probably still like a C minus. It might even be a C just because of how big it is. You know, if it's nighttime.
Right. Yeah, I probably have it at C minus as well. Next, we have Sunstreak Phoenix for 2 and 2 red. It is a creature phoenix and mythic rare 4/2 with flying. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day as Sunstreak Phoenix enters the battlefield. And whenever it becomes night or night becomes day, you may pay 1 and a red. If you do, return Sunstreak Phoenix from your graveyard to your battlefield tapped. Um, I think this card's really strong.
Hmm.
Uh, a reoccurring flying threat is always an issue.
I agree.
I'll probably have this at B
Yeah,
or maybe A.
I probably have it at a B. Um, this is what we kind of used to seeing. This is the Phoenix of the set that plays with this set's mechanic. But I agree, these type of threats that you can consistently bring back are super annoying. We aren't having art like Phoenix stuff necessarily. It's not going to come back and immediately attack. But if you can somehow, I don't know how you can get it to flip on your opponent's turn, like from day to night or night to day, without having another rare like this Celestis. But you know, if this is in your graveyard, you can just kind of pass the turn without doing anything and spend 2 mana to bring this back and maybe have an instant or something to go along with it. I think it's something that at least has to make your opponent think what they're doing with their turn. And if you can screw up what your opponent is playing to do in any regard, then I think that's a good thing. So yeah, I got it at a B. Next we have Stolen Vitality. 1 red instant at common. It says target creature gets +3/+1 till the end of turn. If it's your turn, that creature gains trample until the end of turn. Otherwise, it gains first strike until the end of turn. I really like this. This is the 3 mana or the 2 mana +3/+1 trick that we've seen 1,000 times, but with a twist and a pretty good twist. Um, really good for aggressive decks to give something trample, especially if it's already big. But +3/+1 means that it's going to be big enough to kill almost anything that is blocking it, and then it is really good on defense, giving something first strike. It probably is going to end up playing out exactly like these types of tricks that give first strike do. But I think it's probably like a like a C minus to D plus. It's just a card that I'm not embarrassed to play.
Yeah, it's a decent combat trick. First strike on your opponent's turn is no joke.
Yeah, I agree.
So I probably have it at D plus.
Yeah.
All right. Next we have Spellprune Painter for it's a human shaman werewolf. It is 2 and a red for 2/3. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, Spellrune Painter gets +1/+1 and it has daybound. Daybound. And then it transforms into Spellrune Howler, a creature werewolf with a 3/4. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets +2/+2 until the end of the turn with Nightbound. Um, I like cards like this, especially in what was the one we had in Zendikar that was really decent. Um, I just enjoy effects like this. They give a little bit of to the blue red spells decks.
I agree. I like this card a lot as well. I just see a play pattern. So you play the blue red spells, which means you have instants, you have sorceries. You play this on turn 3. You just pass the turn. Hopefully it's already day somehow, and which is a lot to ask for. It's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for the game to actually be put into day. But if it's in the day and this is in the you play this on turn 3, turn 4, you just shift the turn back, and then I don't think your opponent can attack you. Like you're just gonna eat whatever they attack with. Um, with it getting plus two on the backside from its own ability, they can't really afford to try to get you with a combat trick because if you have your own combat trick, it's just gonna beat theirs. I think in blue red, this is probably like a C to C plus. I
Yes.
really don't want to play it anywhere else. If I'm black red and I just have like a lot of removal that's instant speed, I might, not be upset with it. But I don't think I want to play it in red green or uh, red white or anything like that. Next, we have Smoldering Egg. Oh, sorry. What was your grade for this? The Spell Rune Painter?
Uh, I usually rate these at a C plus.
C plus. Okay. Next, we have Smoldering Egg. It's one in a red for a dragon egg at rare. It's a 0-4 with Defender. 2-drop 0-4 at rare. Let's see what this does. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a number of ember counters on Smoldering Egg equal to the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. Then, if Smoldering Egg has 7 or more counters on it, remove them and transform it. It transforms into Ashmouth Dragon. It is a 4-4 flying dragon. And when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 2 damage to any target. So it's a 4-4 that you could shock something when you cast instant or sorcery. I think I think this is just a stone cold A in the blue red spells deck.
Yeah, in a deck that wants to be casting a lot of spells, I agree. I think this is really strong. Um, Especially like if you do get it to flip and you at least get one or two other spells out of it, you're killing a 2/2 or shocking your opponent.
Right. And
Um,
I probably play it in other decks if I have a decent number of instant sorceries. Probably not red white. Red white wants to be aggressive. It doesn't want 2 mana O4s, but like red black control, I can see this being fine. Red green, also probably not. It kind of wants to be aggressive.
right.
Um, I think on average though, this is probably close to a D. It's just not going to work in a lot of decks. But when you get it to work, it's gonna feel like a A.
Right, I agree. I would rate this as an A in the spells deck, but everywhere else I'd probably even have it as low as an F because you're never flipping it.
Yeah.
Next, we have Seize the Storm for 4 in red. It's a sorcery uncommon. Created a red elemental creature token with trample, and this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard, plus number of cards with flashback you own in exile. And then it has flashback for 6 in a red. Um, like I've said previously, I'm not really big on effects like this. And in Strixhaven, we had a lot of effects that were like, make a few guys, make some like 7/7s or 6/6s, just because of the learn mechanic. Those were super playable, and I'm not sure how this will play out. Having flashback and it counting flashback cards in exile, I think it. I think I could probably see this at a C plus.
Yeah, I think this is pretty good in the blue red spells deck, which we've said a lot over these cards so far, but um, I do agree with you. These type of effects are worse than I think people remember because we had I forgot what it was called and what format it was in. But we had the blue red version of this effect, but it got an instant of sorcery back as well whenever you cast it. It would check first, so you'd make it 8/8, and then you would get a instant of sorcery back. But I
I
think
believe that card was from Ravnica.
I believe so too. But like you said, it
It was
has
either
flashback.
Ravnica or M21.
Yeah, it might have been M21. It has flashback, and in the blue red spell stack, you're gonna have 4 or 5 instant sorceries in your deck, in your graveyard probably, and then yeah, counting the flashbacks and exile as well makes it big. It's a 5 minute, so if to do a lot of work, it's a 5 mana 5/5 with trample, and then it can probably later on be like a 7 mana 6/6 with trample. That's good. That's only in the blue red spells deck. This is probably a D outside of a deck that has a ton of instants of sorceries. Maybe a F. Just doesn't do anything for you in those decks unless you are casting a lot of these.
Right.
Next, we have Reckless Stormseeker. Two in a red, human werewolf at rare. It's a 2/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0, gains haste until end of turn, and it has daybound. So it means it flips, and when it flips, it becomes Storm Charge Slasher. It's a werewolf, it's a 3/4, and it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2/+0, gains trample and haste until end of turn. This, we've seen effects like this a lot in limited. They're usually pretty good, and this one's better than we normally get. It is on a rare, so that makes sense. But giving something +1/+0 in haste means your 5 drops attack immediately. Um, and then if it's flipped and you get to use it, it's not going to be hard to win the game from there. It's a must kill for a lot of decks. It's going to be killed on sight, which is a 3 drop, which means if your opponent kills this on turn 3, your 4 and 5 drops are fine. This looks like a B for me. It just looks like a good card.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite red cards in the set. I think it's very strong, and especially if you get to play it at nighttime. Um, just it immediately can attack. Uh, yeah,
Oh,
you can immediately make it attack for 5.
right, yeah, it can target itself, so even on turn 3, it can just target itself and immediately whack in for 3. That's a good point.
Yeah, so I probably have this actually rated at an A. This is, like I said, I may have a little bias towards this card. It is one of my favorite red cards in the set.
Hmm.
Um, and I think in low to the ground, like decks, like especially red black and red green, are gonna want to play this card no matter what.
I can see that. This has a large effect on the game, and it doesn't stop from the moment it enters. I can be convinced this is A.
Next, we have Raise the Effigy. For 1 red, it's an instant common, and it says choose one, destroy target artifact or target attacking creature gets +2/+2 until the end of the turn. This is definitely not a card I really want in my deck. It may be fine in
Mhm.
the sideboard, but the stipulation on +2/+2 only on attacking creatures really makes this card undervalued for me.
I agree. Um, at first this looks like a combat trick they added some extra text to, and it looks great, but it really is a big cost to have to be attacking to use your combat trick because there's a lot of board states where you can't attack, and there's not a lot of artifacts, so that's probably not gonna be relevant either. I agree. I don't want to put this card in my deck. Maybe like a sideboard C. The problem is since there's not a lot of artifacts, if your opponent has some crazy rare artifact or mythic artifact or even an uncommon artifact, if they don't draw it, usually the strength of these cards is, well, I can't use the mode that I want, but I have this other mode. And there are going to be situations where maybe you can force your opponent to block early, and this can just be a 1-for-1, which is fine. But it's so tight on the situations where you can get the most out of this card that I think it's almost not worth running it. I probably have it like a D,
I agree. I think it's fairly low rated.
maybe a F. I just don't want to play this card. Yeah, F. I don't want to play this card. Next, we have Purifying Dragon. Oh, what was your rating? I think we skip your ratings a lot. My bad.
Oh, it's fine. I probably have this at an F or a D as well.
Okay. Next, we have Purifying Dragon. 3 red dragon and uncommon. It's a 4/3 flyer. So 5 mana 4/3 flyer. Okay. Whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage to target creature the defending player controls. If that creature is a zombie, it deals 2 damage instead. Yeah, I mean, this looks like a C level card in general. Maybe closer C plus to B. Um, Pinging something means you can take a block away from your opponent that could be profitable for them. And then obviously if your opponent is playing zombies, being able to actually maybe kill what they have is a big deal. Um, yeah, I probably have it at like a C.
Yeah, I have this at a C as well. Maybe C plus. Flying is what really makes this card stand out to me.
Hmm.
So
I agree.
next we have Play with Fire. For one red, it is an instant and uncommon. Play with Fire deals 2 damage to any target, and if a player is dealt damage this way, scry one.
Oh yeah.
Um, I like this card, but it is an uncommon,
Hmm.
and it only kills bears really. And sometimes like you'll like get a profitable trade with it, but I probably have this rated as C as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably a C. Usually with shock and limited, the first one is pretty good and it falls off from there. I am interested how the additional text is going to play out. Obviously, this is fantastic in the red black deck. It's a cheap spell that can deal damage to your opponent and it gets you a little bit more value with the scry one. Um, I think it's about a C. The first one's going to be great and it's going to drop off from there. I am curious how many copies you actually want to put in your deck if you're running the red black deck. Normally, when you draft shocks, you don't want four shocks because the second through fourth ones are just not going to kill something. But with this one being able to get a little bit of additional value, uh, you know, maybe the red black deck would play for. I'm not sure, but I think it's a C. Next, we
Right.
have Pax Betrayal. Two in a red for a sorcery at common. Gain control of target creature till the end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste. If you control a wolf or werewolf, scry 2. These effects are normally not very good. They're not linear. They have a wide delta between when they're horrible and when they're great. They feel so good when they're great that they can be tricky that they're great. Um,
Right.
they're really only good if you're aggressive. Just taking your opponent's thing and hitting them with it is not good enough. You want to take your opponent's blocker, remove a blocker from your opponent's side and then swing with three or four creatures. Um, I don't think this type of effect is going to be good, like it was as good, I mean, as it was in AFR. Obviously, this type of effect is uh, a scourge in AFR. But with the sacrifice deck being a different color than red, and with black having, I think, very few ways to just sacrifice. There's no village rights or anything to my knowledge, which we don't. I guess I don't know. We haven't got to black yet. I think this is like a D. Um, it's going to be great for your aggressive decks with the sideboard. Maybe main deck one. I'm not sure. I don't really like main decking these type of effects, and I don't put a lot of leverage on the fact that you can steal a wolf or werewolf and scry 2, or just control one and scry 2. Maybe that text is better than I'm giving it credit for, but I think this is just a D.
Yeah, I usually rate active treasons D to F. They're usually not very good unless there is a heavy sacrifice mechanic.
Right.
Next, we have abusive astronomer or obsessive,
Abusive.
obsessive astronomer. For one in a red, it is a human wizard at uncommon. It is a 2/2, and if it is neither day or night, it becomes day as it enters the battlefield, and then when day becomes night, or vice versa. You can discard 2 cards and then draw that many. Um, I don't really know how to rate this card. Looters, I guess this is like a faithless looting on a body, kind of.
Hmm. I like it. I think the fact that the rummaging ability is incidental. You're gonna have it come up a lot of times where you're not expecting it. You just pass the turn, your opponent just passes the turn. Uh, one important note though is it is not optional. You have to discard a draw, so that could come up. But I feel like I say this a lot with these cards. If you put this card in your deck, keep that in mind. Make sure that you have something that you almost always want to discard. Or if you don't want to discard, you like the cards in your hand, try to prevent it from flipping day to night or night to day. One thing I did notice about these cards that I didn't quite notice when we've gone over them earlier is it says as it enters. Um, so This means your opponent can't kill this and make it not become day. It will become day when it enters because it's as. So this isn't a trigger when it enters, which is pretty cool. I didn't notice that before. I guess it's to prevent their mechanic for the set to not be the mechanic for the set.
Right.
I probably had this at. I think it's a C.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's probably a C as well
it's a
for me.
it's a bear, and like if you get it going, you're churning through your deck. You're gonna always have your good cards. I like it. Next we have Neonate's Rush, 2 and a red for instant and common. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a vampire. Neonate's Rush deals 1 damage to target creature and 1 damage to its controller. Draw a card. This I really don't
Go
know
ahead.
how I feel about this card. Um, it seems like it's great, or it's meant for the red black deck because it procs your life loss stuff. It's cheaper in that deck because you're gonna have vampires, and it looks like it's okay maybe in the blue red deck because it's a cycler. I think it's my problem is we haven't seen a lot of X ones so far, and maybe there's more that we haven't gotten to, but so far all the X ones are they're 1 mana, so you're down on mana, which is makes this card highly inefficient regardless of if you pay 2 or 3. And most of the X ones have abilities that make them not X ones anymore.
Right.
I think, I
What
think, go ahead.
what I like about this card is it does say draw 1 card and deal 1 damage to his controller. So it does trigger a lot of the stuff in the red black deck.
Hmm.
Um, and it is instant speed. So um, I'd probably rate this at a C.
That's true. It can maybe help you trade off with a creature you want off the battlefield and procs your stuff. I think my instincts say to give this card a D. It doesn't look very good, but I think I could be convinced that it could be a C. So I'll go with C.
Next we have Mounted Dread Knight for 4 and a red. It's a 5/4 vampire knight at common with trample, and when Mounted Dread Knight enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it if the opponent lost life this turn. Um, so these effects are pretty nice, especially if you're playing like the red black deck, and it is decently well statted for 5 mana creature, and it has trample. So I probably rate this at a C.
Yeah, I probably have it as C. This is I think this is gonna be good for every red deck. The fact that it's 5 mana means that you're gonna have creatures on the battlefield. You're gonna be able to attack your opponent and maybe play it, and that it's a 6/5 with trample. And aggressive decks really like that type of top end. And
Right.
then yeah, like you said in the red black deck, it's gonna hopefully be trivial to make this enter as a 6/5 with trample. But it's a 5 mana spell. There's no way it doesn't technically have evasion. Trample is nice though. It doesn't, protect itself from any sorts of removal. So I like it as a C as well. Next we have Moonveil Regent. 3 and a red for a creature dragon at Mythic. It's a 4/4. It has flying. When you cast a spell, you may discard your hand. It's a big word there with the may. If you do, draw a card for each of that spell's colors. And then when it dies, it deals X damage to any target, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. I mean, it's really hard to make a 4 mana 4/4 flyer bad. You know, like
Right.
this is a B at least. It's a good rate, and then late game, even if you're just casting a monocolor spell and then discarding a card and drawing a card, it's gonna be great. So I think I'll probably give it a B plus. I feel like it's gonna be really hard for this to be a bad card.
Yeah, I agree. I have this at B+ as well. It's another really strong red card.
Yeah, maybe an A. I could see always first picking this. There's no downside to it.
All right, next we have Moonrager's Slash for 2 and a red. It is an instant common, and the spell casts 1 or costs 2 less if it's night, and then it deals 3 damage to any target. This is a really strong premium red card. Um, 1 mana lightning bolt, at nighttime is really strong. So I probably have this at one of the few cards in A tier in red.
I think it's yeah, it's great. Lightning bulk, as the kids call it. This is just classic, red removal. It's gonna be at least a C plus to B tier card. If it's nighttime, obviously it's just straight lightning bolt. It's great. Uh, I'd probably play it in every red deck, at least a copy. Sometimes it just happens to be night because the game's just progressing, and
All right.
having lightning bolt is good. So yeah, I'll give it a B. Next we have Lunar Frenzy, X red for instant uncommon. Target creature you control gets plus X plus 0 and gains first strike and trample till the end of turn. I think it's really fitting that this card is in a horror theme set because this card is horrifying.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'm when my opponent plays a mountain, I'm gonna be playing around this card for the rest of the game. This card's just nuts. Like I want to give it an A for uncommon. It's a combat trick, so it's not an A. But it's a B. I'm gonna give it a B for sure. This card is nuts.
Yeah,
You
1 mana for trample and first strike is ridiculous, and then you can put fire breathing on it.
yeah. You can just make it a fireball. It's not quite fireball. If they kill the creature, that sucks. But I mean, you're just gonna kill your opponent with this card so much of the time,
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm giving this a B as well.
and you're gonna mess with your opponent's mental. If they see this card game one, they're gonna play around it for the rest of the game. It's so easy to fake it. You just leave a mountain up. Yeah, this is nuts. Like this is pro. I can't think of another combat trick that I would like more than this. This might be the best combat trick I've seen, and I'm gonna call it early. This is my pick for the mythic uncommon of the set. Let's see if how wrong I am about that.
I may be behind that on the Mythic Uncommon as well. All right, next we have Light Up the Night, or Light Up the Night for red and X. It is sorcery rare. Light Up the Night deals X damage to any target. And if it deals X plus 1 damage, instead if the target is a creature or planeswalker. And then it has flashback for 3 and a red. Remove X loyalty counters from among planeswalkers you control. If you cast this card this way, X can't be 0. Um, Banefire has always been super good.
Right.
It is not Banefire though; it can still be countered, but like Fireball effects are still really strong. So I probably rate this at a B.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably got it. B plus. It's funny that these two cards are next to each other in the file. Kind of seems where their minds were when they were making these cards. Um, the fact that you can kind of get discount when you target a creature. You don't have to pay 3 mana to kill a 2/2. You can just pay 2 mana. That makes it pretty efficient. You usually are going to be even on mana at that point. You're not going to flash this back a whole lot in limited. Um, and obviously, when you do, you're going to feel like you really stole the game. But yeah, this is a B. This card is really good. Next, we have Lamb Hold Harrier. I think that's how you pronounce that. One a red wolf at common. It's a 2/2, and then it says 3 in a red. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Yeah, this is C for me. These effects are usually better than they look, and they are really, really annoying. You can usually reach a stage of the game where if your opponent has this, you look across the table, they have 8 mana, and you go, I don't know if I can win. They're just going to be clocking me for 6 to 10 damage a turn.
Oh yeah. Probably have this at a C minus. It is very expensive cost, but it is a
Mhm.
great 2 drop for red. I definitely would not be mad about putting this in my deck.
Right. And it's a wolf.
It is a wolf, which does matter. Next is Immolation. For 1 red, it is an enchantment aura. A common enchanted creature gets +2/-2.
Nice little reprint here.
Yes, I like cards like this a lot because sometimes they can just win you the game by removing a crucial 2 drop or flyer or just, getting there, going over the top.
Yeah, I agree. The first copy of this is gonna it could play like a shock or a dead weight. Uh, you could put this on a big trampler to get some extra damage through. You don't quite get the dead weight experience, but you could put this on your opponent's creature so they don't want to attack with it anymore. You make their 5/5 a 7/3, and you have a bunch of 3/3s lying around. It's I think this is a C for me. I mean, it's just there are situations where it goes wrong, but there's a lot of upside to it.
Yeah, I have it as C minus as well.
Mhm. I only want one though. I don't think I'm taking the second copy.
Yeah, yeah.
Next, we have Harvest Tide Infiltrator. 2 in a red, human werewolf at common. It's a 3/2 with trample, and it's daybound. And when it flips, it is a 4/4 with trample with nightbound. Yeah, bread and butter C, 3 drop. Um,
Yeah,
if it's nighttime, it's a 3 mana 4/4 trampler. That's an insane rate. If it's daytime, it's a 3 drop. Yep, it's a C for me.
yeah, I have this at C as well. All right, next we have Geist Flame Reservoir. It is an artifact for 2 in a red at rare. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, put a instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Geist Flame Reservoir. 1 in a red, remove any number of charge counters. It deals that much damage to any target. And 1 in a red, you may exile the top card of your library, and you may play that this turn.
Wow.
This is another one of those cards that is really, really good if you can cast a bunch of spells, but otherwise it is not that great.
I agree. It
I
does.
guess it's a little better because you do get to like mini outpost siege.
Right. I think this is the first time we see these two effects together. Uh, it can kind of facilitate the other text, that last line of text where you have a lot of mana. You use this to start getting a little bit of card advantage, and maybe that can put a couple more counters on it. Um, I think in the blue red deck, this is going to be, oh, what was it called? The amulet from Battle for Zendikar, the wizard's instant sorcery
Oh
one.
yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's gonna feel like that card. Uh, though you do get to choose whatever number you want to remove from it, and it can hit your opponent. Uh,
That is true. I probably have this at a C plus.
yeah, I think if I'm blue red spells, I'm taking this all the time. It feels like it could. It's probably a B there. It is an artifact. It doesn't affect the board the turn it comes in, so kind of prevents it from becoming an A. But then again, it's a 5 mana investment to get the first card off the top of your library. But from then on out, having a 2 mana way to just kind of draw an extra card, that's pretty good. Um, I think I'm just gonna stick with a B, but I like this card a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if I end up putting it in not blue red spells just for the last line of text.
Right.
Next, we have Flame Chandler. 1 red for a human wizard, and uncommon. It's a 2/2. When a spell you control deals damage, transform it. It transforms into Embodiment of Flame. It's an elemental wizard. It's a 3/3. When a spell you control deals damage, put a flame counter on Embodiment of Flame. And you can pay 1 generic mana, remove a flame counter, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. This seems great. This is like a C plus to Probably a C plus. I mean, it's just a 2 mana 2/2, and then if you can get the flip and get some cards off of it, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I probably have this at C plus as well. It's very strong, especially with the few red burn spells we've seen.
Right.
All right, next we have Festival Crasher for one and a red. It is a devil at common. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Festival Crasher gets +2/+0 until the end of the turn, and it is a 1/3. This is another pretty strong common for the blue red spells deck.
Hmm.
I probably have this at a C.
Yeah, I do too. Um, for the blue red spells deck, I don't want to put it anywhere else. But yeah, it's just exactly what the blue red spells deck wants. One of the few creatures that deck wants to play. Um, Plus the art's great. Little devil guy wearing the jack o' lantern.
Yeah,
Next we have Fang Blade Brigade. That's how you pronounce that word. Three
Brigand.
Brigand. Three in a red for a human werewolf at uncommon. It's a 3/4. It has an activate ability of one in a red. It gets +1/+0 and first strike till the end of turn. And it has Daybound, which means it has a night side, which is Fangblade Eviscerator. It's a 4/5. It has the same text of one in a red. It gets +1/+0 and first strike, and then also has four in a red. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. So like a mini overrun effect, if you will.
I really like Trumpet Blast on a creature.
Yeah.
Uh, I think this card's a very strong uncommon, and I probably rate this at a B. It's great in your aggro decks. It's pretty good in like if you're playing like the green red stompy deck, the like mid range deck.
Hmm.
Uh, I like this card a lot.
Yeah. I think I have it as a C plus, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a B. The front side alone is going to be pretty annoying to deal with. 3/4s are about that size where they get annoying on the battlefield, and knowing that your 4/4 can attack into it if your opponent has mana up is really big. And then, yeah, Trumpet Blast on a creature is really good, and also Trumpet Blasts on a creature that don't have to tap to Trumpet Blast, so this can attack and still use the ability.
Right.
Yep, I got C plus.
All right. Next we have Famish Foragers for
Yeah.
three in a red. It is a vampire. A common. It is 4/3, and when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, add three red mana to your mana pool, and then for two in a red, discard a card, draw a card. I like this card. Yeah, it basically costs one mana if you've dealt damage to your or if your opponent lost life. So, or it can come down and immediately loot. So I probably have this at a C, but it is a decent playable card.
I agree. I have it at C. It's gonna feel like a C plus to a B when you really get the pop off. But yeah, I really like that they added this little line of text because if you play with these effects before, it really sucks to play one, get your mana, and have nothing to do with it. You're always going to have something to do, unless this is the last card out of your hand. But
Right.
just the upside of your turn four being play this, play a 3-drop. Yeah, this is going to be a really uh, good card. Next, we have Falcon Wrath Pit Fighter. One red for a Vampire Warrior at rare. It's a 2/1. That has activate ability of one red, discard a card, sacrifice a vampire. Draw two cards. Activate this only if an opponent lost life this turn. So it's a lot of conditions, a lot of specific things to have to be met, but that's all on a 1 mana 2/1 with a relevant creature type. This card just looks like a B. Like, if you're a vampire deck, you're gonna play it. It's gonna be fine. And then even late game, if you can squeak in a couple of points of damage, it just starts drawing you cards.
Yeah, I agree. Probably have it at C plus to B as well. Um, and late game, he gets his board stalled, but you get to play this, and you get to sacrifice it after your flyer, or you ping them, or whatever. I think it's a good card.
It is worth noting, you can sack itself.
Yes, it can. All right, next we have Falkenroth Prefector. For one in a red, it is a 2/1 vampire at common. When it attacks, it deals 1 damage to defending player. This is definitely one of those few excellents we've seen. But I like cards like this a lot, especially because it does fuel the vampire archetype with its ability.
Hmm.
So even if it trades with a 2/2, you're still triggering the loss of life.
I agree. This is the common that deck is going to want to pick up almost as much as it can. Maybe it wouldn't pick up the fifth one, but 1 through 4,
Right.
it's definitely going to want. I think I have it at a C.
Yeah, I have it as C as well.
So many C's. It's limited is a great place to be these days. Next, we have Electric Revelation. 2 in a red for instant and common. As additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards. And it also has flashback for 3 in a red. Yeah, it's a 3 mana tormenting voice, but it has flashback and it's an instant. Um, it's probably still just like a D plus. It doesn't affect the board. You do have to have a card in your hand to be able to cast it. But in blue red spells or some red deck that just happens to be able to put it in the graveyard, it's going to be pretty good.
I have this at D. In the spells deck, it'll feel pretty nice, but otherwise it's kind of medium.
I agree.
All right, next we have Curse of Shaken Faith. For one in a red, it's an enchantment or a curse at rare. Enchant player. When enchanted player casts a spell other than the first spell they cast each turn, or copies the spell, it deals 2 damage to them. This is not really a limited card. I'm putting this at an F. I do think this is a great sideboard card for constructed, but
Hmm.
I'm not I'm not ever gonna play this in my deck.
Yeah. Um, I could maybe see it in the red black deck, but it's the fact that it tells your opponent what's going to happen and how to prevent that from happening. It's yeah. It's F. This card is 2 mana. Discard a card. Do nothing. That's the way I read it. In limited, obviously, like you said, yeah. And in constructed, this could definitely be a pretty good sideboard card. Next, we have Cathartic Pyre. 1 red instant at uncommon. Choose one. It deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Or discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. It is a C plus. I mean, this is the classic 2 mana 3 damage burn spell that red gets. But if it's late game and you top deck it, you can't kill anything. You can draw some cards. This looks fantastic.
Yeah, I have this at probably have this at a B. I think this card's pretty strong for what it does.
Yeah, I agree.
I value effects like this a lot.
Right.
All right, next we have Burn the Accused for 4 in a red. It is an instant at common, and then Burn the Accused deals 5 damage to target creature and 2 damage to that creature's controller. If that creature would die this turn, exile it. This is pretty standard 5-drop removal spell we get in red. I always grade these a little higher than I probably should, but this one's an instant instead of or a sorcery,
Hmm.
so probably gonna rate this at a B. I think this is some of the best removal we've seen so far in this set.
Yeah, I have it at C plus. But I'm by no means down on this card. It is like you said, it's the standard 5 damage removal spell that red gets. But it's instant. It always deals 2 damage to them. So, you need a lot of mana, but it could proc some of the red black stuff. More importantly though, it just exiles disturb creatures.
It does do that, yeah.
Yep. So C plus is for me. C plus and B, those are pretty close to the same grade. This card's just great. I would definitely I can see myself playing two, but I am for sure gonna play one. Next we have Burn Down the House. Three red red sorcery at rare. Choose one. Burn down the house deals 5 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, or create 3/1/1 red devil creature tokens with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. They gain haste until end of turn. You know, I like sweepers that can add to the board when you need them to. This looks great. This looks like a B plus to me. Maybe an
Yeah,
A.
this is a premium card. I don't know how many times I'm going to cast it on the create three red devils, but I can probably give you a fine estimate in a month or two after 100 drafts or so. I think this card will be quality tier, probably A tier for me.
Yeah, I give it an A. The only downside to it is it doesn't exile the creatures. So, but like, yeah, you can wipe the board if you need to. You can add to it if you need to. I like this card a lot.
All right, next we have Brimstone Vandal, which is actually my favorite common red. Brimstone Vandal for it is a creature for two in a red. It is a devil at common, and it has menace. And if it is neither night or day, it becomes day as it enters the battlefield. When it becomes night or day becomes night, or when day becomes night or night becomes day, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And I think this is a great way to facilitate changing to day. Um, and or starting that cycle,
Hmm.
and it does help the red black deck a lot. So probably had this at a C plus.
I agree with what you say. I probably have it at a C, but like, I mean, when you have you 3 mana 2/3s that have evasion plus a little bit of upside that could be a pivotal part to how your deck functions, what more can you want? Next, we have Bloodthirsty Adversary. It's one a red for a vampire at Mythic. It's a 2/2 with haste. And it says when it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 in a red any number of times. When you pay this cost, one or more times, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Then exile up to that many instant and or sorcery cards with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard and copy them. You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana costs. So, a lot of text. This card is great.
It is great, and I definitely see this being really good in this format. But when Vintage Cube comes around, I definitely feel like this is gonna be one of those cards that you're just like, what just happened to me? Like it's gonna replace Dreadhorde Arcanist. It is a phenomenal Magic card. I rate this at a probably a B in this format. Other draft formats probably way higher.
I agree. Probably a A. I mean, the floor on this card is a 2 mana 2/2 with haste that has a very relevant creature type. And then right above that is a 3/3 Goblin Dark Dwellers that has haste without the menace. This card's great. Yeah.
All right, next we have Ardent Elementalist for three and a red. It is a human shaman at 2/1. It is a common. When it enters the battlefield, you may return instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. This is one of those key cards that, like, you don't really want a bunch of them, but the red decks will feel nice being able to get back their removal spell or something just to push a little bit more damage. I probably have this at a C. It's not a bad card by any means.
I agree. See, another textbook effect that blue red spells and these spells heavy formats have. It's understated, but that's because you can get a tremendous amount of value from it. I agree. It's a C. Next, we have Abandon the Post. One a red for sorcery at common. Up to two target creatures can't block this turn, and it has flashback for 3 in a red. This is similar to Active Treasons. These style of effects are always, or they're kind of the opposite. They're better than you think, but only in extremely aggressive decks. And since you could theoretically do this twice in the same turn, this is a little bit better than we normally see it. Uh, this is probably, I'd probably put it like a C in a hyper aggressive deck. The ability to take two blockers away from your opponent for 2 mana is insane when you just are trying to, scratch together every point of damage that you can. And then the fact that you can either do it later on again or do it in the same turn and just remove four blockers out of the way in one turn. This card seems really good when you are trying to beat your opponent down as fast as possible.
Yeah, I like you said, I'm not really a big fan of these effects, but sometimes they kind of just get you there when you need a playable card.
Mhm.
So I probably have this at a C minus to a D.
Okay. And that'll do it for red. So next time we will move on to black.